All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Professional Brotherhood podcast. Um, Depending on when you're listening to this, I kind of love getting into the background of the recording stuff. So it is we're sitting here on a Saturday morning. I just recorded another episode last night, Friday night. It's a busy recording weekend, so you'll find this on your podcast player or YouTube. Probably spread out by the week. But yeah, we've got a lot of recording going on this weekend, and Kara's back for another episode. Hey,
Hi,
Kara,
everyone.
how you
Hi.
doing?
Great.
Kara's been busy up in central New York, up in the
That's
real
right.
central New York, doing all
Recognize.
things firefighting and working and holding it down at the hospital and dealing with COVID and all that fun stuff.
Yes.
Yeah,
It seems
yeah,
to be we're doing a little better than we were.
that's
So
good
I
to
haven't
hear.
been sent to the dockets this week to swipe for COVID. So that's a good thing.
Good. That is a good thing. And we have a guest that we're recording with today. Aaron Quinn is joining us, and Aaron and I have gotten to know each other a little bit better through the Clubhouse app. I think this is a theme you're going to find on the podcast over maybe a few episodes because we've kind of immersed ourselves in this community and growing this community. And Aaron's a 20-year firefighter from Oakland, California. He has been in charge of the physical fitness program for the recruit firefighter training program for, I think you said, and I'll let you fix all my mistakes, about 13 years or so. And he's a very, very knowledgeable guy when it comes to physical, mental, spiritual growth. Yeah, Aaron, welcome to the show. Happy to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here. I'm happy we can make this happen.
Yeah, for
You know,
sure.
we've had so many good conversations on the Clubhouse, and so it's fun to actually put it into recording so other people can hear it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I said this last night in my room on the app with Pip from 555. The cool thing for me is there's people that I've been following on social media for some years at this point, right? That I have never ever heard their voice, right? It's just a person behind a social media platform, behind a profile, and maybe we've engaged through text or through a comment or what have you. But the cool thing about a voice conversation is you kind of get to know people a little bit better. And that's what I've been enjoying about that platform. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I think the conversations seem really authentic, and people seem like they really want to engage. That's unique, as opposed to some of those other social media platforms where, like you said, it's just pictures, and I don't know if you're real or not, or who knows what, if you're a bot, if you're, who knows what's going on. But this is like it. This is your real name and your real phone, and it's you talking, and I think that's kind of exciting, and it's live, which is kind of fun too.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So for those of you listening to this after the fact, feel free to send Kara a DM, all right, to tell her that she needs to get active on the app. That's all I'm going to say. We're not going to come back to this, but if you're listening and you follow Kara on St. Florian,
Oh, we're going to come back to it.
feel free to send her a DM and say, hey, Kara, we'd like to hear your voice over on the Clubhouse app. All right, enough about that. So Aaron, I got to say, again, over the past few weeks, you and I have had some great conversations. I've learned a little bit more about you and what you do, and some of the things that you've been doing for a really long time, your outlook on fitness and the fire service. And I even jumped into one of your first rooms where you did 5 rounds of Wim Hof breathing, which for me was way outside of my norm, right? Definitely. I was home alone that morning, sitting right here in this chair with all the computers off. And probably if my wife had opened the basement door, she would have been like, what in the hell are you doing? Because it's something I have never, ever even tried. So I guess let's start with, kind of your journey in where this kind of started for you and how you've managed to bring this to other firefighters.
Yeah. Well, I'll start my journey. Probably my very first kind of inroad to coaching and fitness was I was 11 years old, And I don't know how many people are out there like me, but I feel like most firefighters, I was not very good at school. And so, I had no success there. And I was staying outside the public pool, and this coach, who I didn't know who he was at the time, he walked out and he said, "What are you doing here?" And he pointed his finger at me, and I was like, I'm going to swim. And he's like, "You need to be on my swim team. You'd be a great swimmer. You're swimming for me." And it was the first time that someone kind of, who didn't know me, put like effort into me and thought that I could be something great, right?
Mhm.
Outside of my parents, of course. So that was a big influence on me. And he was a wonderful coach. He's one of those coaches that could talk about swimming and make it seem like you're learning life lessons at the same time. And in doing that, he broke down his philosophies and ideas of why he did certain things. So why we're doing this workout, why we did that workout. And so that really built the foundation for me to fall in love with coaching and to see the power of transformation and the power what a coach can have. And I started coaching when I was 13. I started coaching the rec swim team during summer, and I was just passionate about coaching ever since. And so then I got into the fire service. I got hired in 2002. And in my academy, the physical fitness was just, I don't know, it was sporadic at best. And it was kind of, okay, we had extra half hour at the end of the day, let's go run. And they look down the roster and, okay, this person's a runner, let's have them come out. And this person takes us on like a 5-6 mile run at like a 7-minute mile pace. And if you're not trained, you're going to start, having shin splints and other issues. Or, you know what, no one's available, let's just do push-ups and flutter kicks until we die.
Mhm.
So there wasn't really a rhyme or reason to the fitness, and people were getting hurt, not necessarily because those things are wrong, just because we didn't have any build up or any thought process behind it.
Right.
So as I moved through my career, I still was involved in coaching outside of the fire service. And then I had about 5 years on the job, and one of the people who was heading up the next academy called me up and said, "Hey, I know you're involved in fitness. I know you're involved in coaching." At that time, I was deep into CrossFit. And he said, "Would you be willing to come down and take over the physical training?" And that was in 2013. No, sorry, 2007. 2007. So I took that over in 2007, and I've had it ever since. And I've built this program that I teach all the new recruits, and it includes everything from physical, mental, and spiritual breath work, all kind of jammed into however long the academy is. And our academies can range from 8 weeks when we have laterals to as much as 22 weeks when we have new hires. And I get them Monday through Friday for about an hour every morning, 6:30 to 7:30 ish.
Mhm.
And that's kind of how I started down that path.
So, Kara, this is right up your lane, because I know you and I have had conversations about recruit firefighter training and some of the
Yes.
traditional methods of recruit firefighter training. Sometimes we call it the military style of training, where it's more of a PT, where you just go and run, and like Aaron said, maybe do some push-ups, some sit-ups, and that's really about it. So I'm sure you have some thoughts. So jump
Well,
in.
it's great. It's great to hear that there's, a more progressive, attitude, and that, they reached out to you and said, let's do something different and let's make this better and, more all encompassing for the work we do as firemen. I think that, to your point, there's nothing wrong with doing basic exercise or basic calisthenics, right? Like we want everybody to move their bodies. We want everybody to try to stay healthy and start at the level you're at. But it does become very challenging to draw that line between, do you have a program with goals for everybody and a way for them to progress and a way for them to learn why they're doing what they're doing versus just doing exercises, right? Like there's a difference.
100%.
Right.
Yeah. I think I throw people off because if they're coming in there and their first day is, they come in to see me first. And so we're there, and we all know what being a new recruit's like. You're nervous, you're just, upright, and you're
Sure.
you're thinking that all hell and fury are going to break loose on this PT day, and you're just going to be like, man, I'm just be sore the rest of my life. But no, the first thing I bring him into the classroom, I sit him down, and I tell him I teach him the very first thing. I say, I want you to know that better people make better firefighters. And regardless of whether you're going to make it through this academy or not, my goal is to make you a better person. And we're going to utilize fitness to do that. And we're going to talk about some philosophies and some ideas, and we're going to grow together. And that's our goal. And that's the very first thing we talk about. It's the very first thing that we break down. And then we go into teaching some prehab and rehab exercises, and we do those religiously, because those are the areas that break on us. And I want them to understand those are more important than anything else you're going to do in the fitness world, is keeping those things strong. And then slowly we build in the fitness, we build in yoga, and slowly we build in these things until the end of the academy. We are doing what most people would think would be a traditional academy. We can go pound, 8 miles and bang out 300 push-ups in the course of those 8 miles. And so, we can do those things, but because we've progressed, because we've built this understanding, and we've strengthened the hips, and we've strengthened the knees, we've strengthened the feet and the shoulders, our bodies can withstand that now. And that's kind of the goal.
How many of the recruits, and by now I'm sure you've seen lots and lots of recruits, but how many of those recruits, in your experience, when they go out of the academy, continue the foundation that you've built for them in one way or another? Do you think it's a fairly high number?
I think it's a fairly high number that keep it going some way or other. I understand that there's people like me who I like working out, and I like pushing that pace. That's not everybody, and that's okay. And I tell them that too. Like, I'm on one extreme, like I like to hurt when I work out, and that's just like, that's me. And that's my struggle, is try to balance that with actually resting. Right. But everyone takes something with them, and everyone takes some exercises, and they take some philosophies, and they take some onus to understand that it's on them. And I have seen a difference in our department when it comes to fitness and how people view it and how people attack even nutrition. And I'm not saying it's all because of me, but I think that groundwork is laid in the academy when they're brand new.
Sure. And you're bringing so many different things into the program. So even if somebody, connects with one or two, right, that they take with them through their journey and through their life, I mean, you've absolutely made a difference, regardless of it's everything that you've taught them, or, one or two pieces. You're definitely ahead of the game.
That's a win. You take one or two things, that's a win.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that also it's so beneficial for firefighters to start out that way and learn that there are different ways to approach fitness and different ways to approach health, and you can individualize it. You start out working out as a group, but what the takeaway is something that maybe they can, have as a foundation and build on as an individual for what works for them to continue to succeed. And, we as firefighters, if we take a class where we learn something, we learn a new technique, if you learn a new way to force a door or whatever, one of the first things that we want to do is go back and show everybody else what we learned and how to do it and the technique that we learned. And I think that that's very applicable to health and fitness and wellness too, is to say, look at it as a skill. This is a new skill that I learned that we can apply in our daily lives. And it's awesome, because if one person is going back and saying, hey, I learned how to do this, I kind of like it, or if they see you doing it in the gym or at the firehouse and they ask you about it, that's how you get the buy-in from the rest of the group.
100%. And I think I love what you'd say. It's a skill, and we teach them a bunch of different skill sets, and then you basically hear your paints, you paint your picture, and you find out what speaks to you. And there's 1,000 different things you can get involved in and stay healthy. You just got to find one thing that speaks to you and go with that.
Right.
Absolutely.
I got guys who love to hunt, and their whole fitness thing is to stay in shape for hunting. And that's great. We'll figure, we'll get a pack on, and we'll go ruck and walk and do our thing. And that's what keeps them motivated. This is great.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Whatever keeps somebody motivated. And like you said, before, I mean, that's a win. They're doing something,
Yeah.
And it's keeping them fit for their personal lives. It's keeping them fit for the job, so it's a win for everybody around, their family, the fire service, Yeah, that's great. One of the videos that you recently put up on you started on your Instagram, and then you shared it to your YouTube channel, and we'll make sure we get all that information out before the end of the episode. Revolved around rapid intervention teams, RIT, RIC, FAST, whatever you call it in your part of the world. And, when I first tuned into the video, I right off the bat, I'm like, all right, where's Aaron going to go with this one? Because you typically tend to go down a lane that a lot of people don't go down, which is what I enjoy about watching your stuff. So I tuned into your video, and I'm thinking, all right, where's he going with, he's got his whiteboard out. Where's he going with RIT? Because when we talk about RIT, sure, we talk about firefighter fitness and the fact that you need to be, pretty much ready for the worst of conditions. That you should be the elite almost that we like to think about for this job, although it's not always that way. We talk about tactics, we talk about different ways to do things, and you talked about something which we should think is very simple, right? But is not so simple. Breathing, the ability to keep ourselves calm, the ability to maximize our air consumption, the ability to think better in the situation. And that video caught my attention. It was something I've been teaching firefighter survival, and we call it FAST in this part of the world, and FAST for years. I've never had that conversation with anybody. Obviously, I've thought about it, but I never had anybody dive that deep into it, and I loved it. So I want to talk about that because it applies to all aspects of firefighting. But Absolutely. you kept it specific to rapid intervention and firefighter assist and search.
Yeah. So it's funny because generally I don't post a lot of my philosophies of actual firefighting because I feel they're kind of, like you said, against the grain sometimes, and I guess I'm flack for that. A lot of my philosophies, I try to find the differences and dance somewhere in that world.
Sure.
But I will say that I shot that video probably a month earlier, and I was debating whether not to post it. I said, screw it, I'm gonna post it because it's something I feel passionate about. I'm sure all of us have gone to so many different RIT trainings and firefighter survival trainings. And my department a couple of years ago did this. They sent people out and they trained the trainer, and they said, oh, this is based on these different books. And I read the books. I'm like, nothing you talked about is based in this book. So I don't know what you guys are talking about. And they said, we did all this training a week long, which is a lot for our department to focus in 5 different modules is a lot for our department. We have lots of people, and it's hard to get everyone through that.
Sure.
And so I was like, wow, this is a big deal. And nowhere in this training, they talk about breath control or breathing or any of that stuff. And I'm like, well, this is like air consumption is the number one thing that limits our ability if we're internal, if you're wearing a bottle, and if your department wears bottles on roofs, it limits that too. Right. Sure. So, we never talk about it. We give a little bit of passing credit to skip breathing. But I ask people, what is that? And they're like, I don't know. I mean, 2 out, 1 in, okay, what rate? How fast? Like what's your goal? And no one knows these things, and no one talks about these things. And so it's a big blind spot, but it's one of the number one things we need to do. And so that video was my intention was to kind of bring light to that and say, here are some things that I do to try to help myself get ready, hopefully just to be better inside the fire with the bottle on. But if I ever do get in a situation where I need to activate RIT, or if I'm trying to rescue myself or any evolution of that, right, that I can have some skills that built into me already, so I can hopefully do a better job with that. And we can break down what I talked about if you want.
No, absolutely. Cause I think it's definitely an important topic that applies to more than just the RIT conversation. And again, we'll direct people to that video where you got the whiteboard and go over it, do the John Madden style as well. But yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit more about that, because I think it's important to share.
Yeah. And I think it was you that actually encouraged me to post it on YouTube. I think that was you.
Yeah. Cause I asked you how I could get a copy of it. And you said, well, I might post it on my YouTube. All right, great.
I can send you a copy too. I can have my wife and my 15-year-old daughter help me figure out how to do the Dropbox thing, and
right.
Make that happen. So the first piece that I talk about, we really in general in the fire service, I think we operate at too high of a heart rate level. It's just we train ourselves back to physical training, we train our bodies at this kind of CrossFit go high intensity, which is really not what we need to be operating on the fire ground, right? We need to be on a kind of a 150, 140, 160 heart rate. We have better decision making. We have better visual acuity, better auditory acuity. As we get into higher heart rates, all those things start to get compromised, right? And we're able to control our breath a lot better in that place, and our decision making is a lot stronger. So,
Right.
to come into the first mindset of, we want to be able to do some workouts in that heart rate range, so that when we get to when we're fighting fires, our default mode is to go there and not go all the way up. With that being said, one of the ways that first way I try to train this kind of idea of controlling our breath for a RIT, God forbid, if something happens to me or someone, and I got to go into like activate my RIT policy,
Sure,
is I'll do a workout where I will push that pace for 2 minutes or 3 minutes, however hard I can, until I'm gasped for air, super anaerobic, right? So I'm pushing until I feel like I'm gonna, pass out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll sit down, try to pull my breathing back with nasal breathing or mouth breathing as fast as I can, try to calm my heart rate down. And that's a workout. It's 5, 6, 8 rounds of that, like really hard, intense push. It can be a sprint. It can be kettlebell swings. It can be an assault bike. It can be jump rope. It can be whatever you want it to be. A combination of those, but you get yourself in this really depleted state. And then you say, okay, now I'm gonna sit. Now I'm gonna try to calm down. I'm gonna try to nasal breathe. I'm gonna try to drop my breath rate, try to control my breathing, try to lengthen my exhales, right? These are things that we can do, right?
Sure.
And try to count it out. Try to only do a 4 count in through your nose and try to do an 8 count out through your mouth. And really try to slow down and see when I can get to the point where I feel like I can control and I can slow this down. And what I like about these workouts is multiple folds, but you're training this, going from this really activated state, which you might be in if you're nervous or scared, or I'm lost in the fire, I'm hurt, I'm injured, right? You might be in this like really activated state. You go from that to trying to really come back and control yourself and slow that breathing down to conserve your air, which we need to do. It also builds a tremendous amount of connection with the body, right? We start to understand what it feels like to be working too hard, and then what it feels like to try to pull that back in. And those are important connections to make. I think that's one of the ways. Another way, and these are all things that I do with the recruits. We'll do workouts like this, and I explain to them why we're doing it. This is why we're doing it. This is why we're training this way. I need you to push at this pace, otherwise the workout falls apart, right? The purpose of this workout is not necessarily to go as hard and fast as you can. It's to push yourself to this zone and to get back down to this zone, and then to go back to this zone and back down to this zone. And that's the purpose of this workout, right? And so there's no clock, there's no time, there's no rep count, because I need you guys to feel this and understand what it feels like. Box breathing. I'm a huge proponent of box breathing. For those people who don't know what box breathing is, it's simply like if you drew a box on a piece of paper with 4 sides, each side would have an equal number, like 4, 4, 4, 4 is is a common box that people start with. And that's a 4 count inhale, a 4 count hold, a 4 count exhale, and a 4 count retention or hold again on the bottom. So one of the things I have the recruits do is that we'll build box breathing in a couple times a week. We'll sit down. We start with a 4x4 box. I'll count it out for 10 rounds. And then every week or 2 weeks, usually at first we can bump it up faster. Towards the end, we have to wait 3 weeks. But the goal, I tell them, is if you increase this number by 1 every 2 weeks or so, in short order, in 30 weeks or so, you can do a 15 by 15 box for 10 minutes. And that's 1 breath a minute for 10 minutes.
Wow.
And people are like, no way. I'm like, dude, it's trust me, it's trainable. And how much better do you think you can relax your body and calm your body and make the oxygen last if you know you can take 1 breath a minute for 10 minutes? If you look down, your bell's going off and you're like, oh my God, I don't know where I'm at. And you got to activate that RIT. And you say, you know what? I know I can get myself to a state where I'm going to take 1 breath a minute and I can be okay with that.
Yeah.
Like that's a huge confidence booster. It's a huge place to be. And again, if we don't train, these things aren't hard. They're not like some crazy thing that no one can do. They're very obtainable. You just have to train them. You have to spend time training it.
Yeah.
And then I think kind of to talked about earlier, the Wim Hof method, I think, is a huge piece of that also. There's too much science to maybe go into one podcast on all that.
Right.
But one of the things I've noticed is that you really train your body to move from an activated state to a calm state, and then back through these different states of being overly activated, calm, super panicky, calm, activated. So you're able to move through these states much faster, which I think is super, super important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Kara?
I think it's amazing that you're teaching that, and it's so valuable to have it be out there. And I think that for people that are listening and thinking like, well, I don't know how I would get my department to buy into this type of training, or that the guys would never do this kind of thing. I think that there are like drills and ways that you can make it fun and interesting and accessible, but also teach them. A lot of departments do annual or monthly, TOAC training, or breathe down training, or mass confidence training, like those types of things. And while you're doing those types of training and drills, have a small classroom conversation about the breathing and why it works and why it's important. One of the things that, if anybody follows me on St. Florian Fitness knows, is that one of my biggest methods is high intensity interval training. So you're working at a big high cardiac load, and then you bring your body back down for a rest period. And it really, if people think about that, it mimics the work that we do on the fire ground. And even if you're doing EMS or whatever it is, you're getting yourself pumped up, and then you've got to be able to calm yourself down, and you've got to be able to sustain that up and down for whatever period of time. You don't know how long you're going to have to do that. So if you're conditioning your body that way to operate like that, it's going to be something that is like muscle memory, right? It becomes something you don't have to think about putting into action. It becomes a way of being.
Absolutely. It's too often, if anyone is training breath in the fire service, it's all about, sitting in mindfulness and deactivated. And, it's more designed to kind of deal with this, with the constant stress levels versus the kind of acute stress, or how to transition between those two different states, which I think is really, to your point, that's kind of what we do.
Right.
Well, if you've never gone from that super anaerobic state that you're talking about to sitting down and nothing, like just from that state to, all right, now sit down, what your body feels like is, and the only, and how I relate to that is, if you've ever gone for any kind of testing, like I had a couple of years there where I was going through some health stuff, and one of the tests they put me through was a stress echo. And in a stress echo, they have you on that treadmill. And for somebody like myself that is in pretty good shape, they're pushing you to get that heart rate up there. You're up at 170, 175, and they get you moving. And then when they tell you to stop and lay down so they can do that echocardiogram, I got to tell you, like the first time I did that, I went from that, my heart was pumping, and they're like, all right, stop, lay down. And I lay down, and I'm like, but it totally relates to what you're talking about, because it's an unbelievable feeling, to try and calm yourself down from that state of mind.
Yeah. And I think the HIIT training is great. I utilized interval training. Swimming was all based in interval training.
Yes.
That's my history, but I do think there's a real importance to taking the clock away and having no clock, so that, to your point, that you can kind of feel these things, and there is no interval, there's no rep count. It's like, I need you to get to that space, and I need you to get out of that space and feel what it feels like, because in the fire, there's no clock, there's no interval, right? And so, it's a combination of both. The clocks and the times help tremendously at first, to get that connection, but as we move forward, we want to try to eliminate those pieces.
Well, and this also segues into something you said yesterday, Aaron, and this is going to prove that I pay attention. Is yesterday you were talking about working out sometimes with nothing else going on, right? No music, no iPad, no television, and actually paying attention to what's going on with your body, which
Yeah.
I thought was a great point as well, because I know I'm like most people. When I'm exercising, there's always something going on, whether it's music, the TV, whatever. There's always something going on.
Yeah. So one of the things I teach is I have 4 pillars. It's connection, passion, strength, and information. And these are the 4 pillars that I believe flow through everything. And we can use the exercise in the gym to learn these things. But one of the places that we increase our disconnection is in the gym often. Firefighters, we have a problem with disconnecting anyway. It's something we have to do for our job. But if we not careful, it bleeds into all parts of our lives. And so building connection back in is super important, especially for us. And so one of the ways is, instead of putting the headphone on, putting the angry music on, which I have a whole nother thing about that, the TV's on or whatever's going on, and you're going through these motions and you're completely disconnected with what's going on in your body and everything. Whereas, when we work out, recruits like, why is there no music? I'm like, well, cause that's by design. You need to feel what you're feeling. Because guess what? You don't have headphones. We don't have AC/DC pumping in the background when that fire's ripping. The videos look cool, but we don't have that in real life. So,
right.
It's
so
not the actual background music.
Yeah. Trust me, in my head, sometimes I feel like you're like, yeah, but it's not, and so, and developing these, having those conversations with yourself of like that voice that comes in the head or whatever's going on. Those are important conversations to have, because those might happen. Those do happen. And so when you spend time just with no other input except for what's going on between your ears and your eyes, that really challenges a lot of people.
So I'm guessing there's no growling music in your playlist, is what you're telling me.
No. If I do play music, it's classical, which again really jacks people up. Like, hey, we're gonna do 300 burpees and 100 pull-ups. And like, okay, what, do you want to hear some music? Yeah, I put some classical music on. And like, what the hell is going on? This is gonna get really weird real quick.
That's great. I can only imagine the faces on some of these new guys when they come in, and after the conversation that you've had, and then you throw on the classical music. There's got to be some priceless moments in your world that are
okay. It's time for burpees and Bach. Here we go.
Yeah.
That could be a whole nother YouTube. I think you should do that.
I should.
Yeah,
that'd be great. That's hilarious. That's a great tagline too.
Burpees and Bach.
So outside of the fitness world, another thing we've talked about a few times is your role as a senior man, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's in hearing you talk about it with some others in the career service. I know it's a little different than a lot of parts of the world. I like hearing different. That's one of the things I've really enjoyed about this podcast, is speaking to people and hearing how things are geographical, and really, really differ sometimes. In our world, in the volunteer service, I think the senior man is an extremely valuable role.
Yes.
Because there's so many lessons that can be learned from that role, that non-traditional, non-formal leadership role. And in our world, it is a non-formal leadership role, whereas in your world, Aaron, the way you describe it, it's more of a known formal position without a fancy hat or a different set of bars, right? Let's dive into that a little bit, because I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah, so I'll speak about Oakland. That's the department I know, and that's where I work. For those, it's Oakland, California. I don't know if we've qualified that, because there's other Oaklands around there.
Sure.
So traditionally in my department, the senior firefighter was the person who had the most amount of time on that. The firefighter, they had the most amount of time on that shift. And then you had a senior house firefighter who had the most amount of time in that house. And this was back in the day where there are many firefighters who never promoted, and whose goal was just to go to a house, learn the role of a firefighter in that district, and this person becomes, really the main keeper of knowledge.
Mhm.
As you promote, you get shipped out, you might come back, you might not come back. But this person was here for 30 plus years, and they could tell you where every standpipe was. They could tell you where every stairwell was, what stairwell went to the roof. They could tell you what kind of roof it was. They could tell you what size ladder to throw. They can, tell you, oh, that address next to this building and that building. And so the depth of knowledge was unparalleled, and their ability to handle stuff on scene, because they knew they've been there forever.
Sure.
And that was their goal, was to be a firefighter. And so that's kind of, the era that I got hired, you still had a lot of those firefighters who were the senior firefighters, and they garnished a tremendous amount of respect. With that being said, also, my department is unique in that our truck drivers and tillers are not promoted. So the firefighters are the ones that drive the truck and tiller. And so, being a senior firefighter, it's a little different now. Now we rotate positions, but back then you were usually the permanent driver. So you permanently drove the truck, which was again another kind of place where most departments would have that be a promotion. And there was you drove, so you knew the district. You're pretty much still in our department. If you're driving, we expect you to start memorizing the streets, so you don't have to go to the map. Our districts aren't that big. If you go to the map, it's kind of like, that better be a street way up in the hills somewhere that you never heard of.
Right.
Because if it's in our first due, man, we're going to come back and we're going to rib you. Everyone makes mistakes,
Sure.
I mean, I'm myself too. You get cross-wired every once in a while, but so that's kind of how I grew up in the fire service, was seeing these senior firefighters that just really did have a amazing amount of knowledge. And my first day at the firehouse, my captain, and I know you've heard me tell this story before, he is a multiple tour Vietnam vet, special forces, and had who knows how many years in the job when I got hired, and just really well respected as an officer. And he told me, I can't teach you to be a firefighter. Go learn from Billy. He's a senior firefighter. He's gonna teach you how to be a firefighter. And that was kind of my introduction. And so that role is kind of kept in Oakland, and it's a role that's, I think, because promotions, you can promote, based on a test. And so, the senior firefighter is something that you have to earn through years of service. And to a certain extent, you have to earn it through your actions on the fire ground or extrications or medical. You have to earn it through your I guess, merit.
Yes. And
so it's it's a pretty coveted position. And it's a pretty well respected position for the people who take it seriously.
Yeah, and look, everything that you just said about that position crosses over into our world in the volunteer fire service. I know I've worked
100%.
I've worked with, lots of guys throughout the years that never promoted to any kind of rank, but they are good at the job. They know the job. They know the district. They know the department. They know the traditions of the department, the culture, and none of that stuff is automatically known, nor can it be just taught through osmosis. You only learn these things through being around and being active, and it's an extremely important position. I know Kara and I have talked about it on other episodes before, the importance of that role from the realm of mentorship.
Right.
Absolutely.
In the firehouse.
One of the things I've seen in my career, and it might be the same for you two, is that I guess the role of senior firefighter has been greatly diminished, even in my department. You see less and less people wanting to do that, and more people wanting to promote. And I think that's to the detriment of the fire service. I think we need to get back to a place where people understand how important that role is. And they don't, not everyone's in this, I'm going to promote, because who knows what, I don't know why.
Right.
besides money, but people really want to achieve that, quickly. I see that in my department. We have lots of people who want to promote. They have 4 years on the job. I had a firefighter, and he has 4 years on the job. I was working out a house that day, and I said, "Oh, good, congratulations on the LT's test." He said, "Oh yeah, thanks. I feel like I really got the firefighter job down." And I looked at him and I was like, "Really? Like, is that like you've already lost? If that's what you feel, you've already lost."
Yeah. Yeah.
4 years, you feel like you got this thing down, you might as well just retire. Like
Yeah.
that's a ridiculous statement. But he believed it, and that's part of the problem is that people devalue what it means to spend a career in that.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. And we see it in our world as well. I think a lot of the younger generation is in a rush to move up. Move up. I got to move up. I got to move up. And sometimes we just got to say, hey, listen, pump the brakes a little bit. Learn
Yeah.
what you're doing before you can be essentially responsible for other people. You need to learn how to be responsible for yourself.
Mhm.
So
Right.
it's a struggle. It's a struggle. But
Yeah, it's
Absolutely.
about learning to crawl before you learn to walk, and I think that that's sometimes difficult concept for people to understand. And it's a fine line because you don't want to squash enthusiasm, especially like on the volunteer side. We want to have that recruitment and that retention, and we want to keep people pumped and excited. But I think that's another reason why partnering newer people with a senior firefighter is so valuable, because they can, really let them know, like, I don't know everything. I've been doing this for, decades, and I haven't seen it all yet. I don't know everything, and one of the greatest moments that I had is when I went into a building, and we saw some conditions that we had heard about and learned about in class and were taught about, but we hadn't ever seen them, live. And I was thinking it was because I was a younger member of the team, and my mentor looked at me and he said, "I never thought I'd see this in my career."
yeah.
And that was just such a great thing for me to hear, because I was like, oh, I mean, they still have something to learn, and that kind of attitude really carries over to the younger members.
Yeah, well,
100%.
we always have something to learn, right? I mean,
Right.
when I'm working with other instructors, especially with newer instructors, and they again, another thing that they talk about in school, and until you're put in that situation, you really don't realize how important it is. But you're asked. Once you're in that role, you're asked all kinds of things. And look, I learn every day on one level or another, whether it's talking to you guys now, or scrolling social media, or going out on a fire, or working with somebody. You're always learning something, and you have people ask you because you're in that role, and there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I don't know. I gotta look it up for you.
Right.
Can't fake it until you make it. You gotta be honest, and people respect that. I say I don't know all the time because I don't know everything.
Right.
Far from it.
In my experience, the people who are more willing to say I don't know are the people that actually know a lot more than they think.
Sure.
Because
Yeah.
because you have the confidence. You say I don't need to prove to you who I am or what I've done. And I'm okay saying I don't know.
Right.
And we'll figure this thing out when we get there. And
Right.
Yeah.
I like people is one of the common things that new people, they always want to have, like, what about this scenario, that scenario? And I'm like, I don't know. We're playing make believe fire department and make believe fire. I mean, I can't tell you. I don't know. Like, we'll figure out when we get there.
Right.
I
Right.
can't.
Right.
We'll figure
Right.
it out.
Right. Yeah.
The amount of variables is too great is one of my
Yeah.
favorite responses.
Yeah.
I love to say that to people. The amount of variables is too great. I don't know.
Right. And listen, that's one of the big problems with the social media world and a lot of the people that are out there, because I'll walk into the firehouse sometimes, and I'll somebody will say to me, "Hey, did you see that video on whatever whomever's page? What do you think about that? Did you read the comments? Boy, those guys really screwed up." I'm like, I don't know. I wasn't there. It wasn't my fire. Like
Right.
that video is a one-dimensional view of a three-dimensional situation. Like, I have no clue what went on there. Does it
Exactly.
look bad from that angle? Sure. but I don't know what was going on everywhere else.
Right.
You know? Yeah. And that it's important for people to realize that, you know, but, Aaron, this was an awesome conversation. I knew it would be. You've got a lot more to share, and I would absolutely encourage those listening that are Kara's smiling for those of you that are not watching this, to if you are not on the Clubhouse app platform, to join us on the Clubhouse app platform, because we've definitely shared a lot of great conversations with a lot of great, you know, fire service people from across the country. And I know you're going to keep sharing stuff there. But, you know, if you wouldn't mind, let's tell everybody, you know, how they can find you on social media, and, you know, all your ats and your handles and all that.
Yeah. Well, my handles are pretty simple. YouTube and website is live, serve, thrive. And Instagram is live.serve.thrive. And that's it. I'm not really on Facebook. I live, serve, thrive on Facebook as well, but I don't spend a lot of time on Facebook. Yeah, mostly Instagram and Clubhouse. My name is Aaron Quinn, and my club is Live, Serve, Thrive on Clubhouse, so you can find that as well.
Yeah, and we will we'll share all your information in the show notes. And
awesome.
On the YouTube channel for sure, and we'll point people to the video we spoke of in the beginning of the episode, and there's all kinds of other great stuff on there. And you know, one thing I would say is you know, get outside your comfort zone a little bit. You know, like I said, you know, earlier on, for me to walk into my basement on a Saturday morning just because I see a guy that I really don't know that well is doing something on a new platform, and next thing you know, I'm sitting in a chair doing this weird breathing method, and I gotta put you
on the spot. How was it?
It was good. It was, you know, look, the first round, I was like, what in the hell is this? You know, and I had some questions, right? Because, you know, look, Aaron just said, all right, guys, this is what we're going to do. We're going to, you know, I'm going to count it out, and this is what I want you to do. And my question was, hey, Aaron, am I doing this through my nose, or am I doing this through my mouth? Is it in through my nose, out through my mouth? Yeah, because like when you talk breathing exercises, people are usually very specific about their breathing exercises, you know? Yeah. So I said, what? And I wasn't totally unfamiliar with Wim Hof, because another friend of mine sent me all the cold water immersion stuff, you know, and my cold water immersion only happens at like a Spartan race or, you know, and I should practice it more because it's overwhelming when I do it there. But yeah, no, it was great, you know, and it was only 5 rounds, but it was cool, and I felt good afterwards, and I would
blow your mind.
Yeah, it does. It blows your mind.
Yesterday I had the opportunity. I went to the place in San Jose, which is not by here, and they put, you know, the EEG on the head, and they measure our brain waves when we were doing the breathing. It was pretty crazy. Crazy results. Yeah.
So anyway, I'll leave this one with saying, you know, get outside your comfort zone every once in a while. Try something new. And make sure you look Aaron up, and I think you'll definitely see some new ideas and ways to get outside of your comfort zone if you start following him on social. So Aaron, I appreciate you taking the time with us this morning to record this, and stay safe out there, brother. And we'll talk to you again soon.
Absolutely.